Hi, welcome to Ben and Curt Till It Hurts. I'm Ben.
And I'm Curt.
And we promise this will be fun.
I love that.
Yeah? It feels good?
That felt better. Not that it felt bad when we tested it.
No.
But that felt good.
Yeah, the test, we had a beta test. We've been beta testing all this whole intro. We've got probably 30 minutes on wax.
There's a good 30-minute intro to this that hopefully will never see the light of day.
Nah, director's cut. People are clamoring.
That's true.
People are clamoring for the director's cut.
I don't even buy a movie if it doesn't have a director's cut anymore.
Yeah.
That's not true. No. But I like a director's cut.
Yeah, everyone wants a director's cut.
So, hey everyone.
Yeah. So what's this going to be like, Curtis?
This is our new show, Ben and Curt Till It Hurts.
Ben and Curt Till It Hurts.
Today when we met together, we did not have a name for this show. Ben came up with this.
Hey, yeah.
I think it was a joke.
I don't know, man. I had not yet thought about whether or not it was serious. You were getting that pretty much as I was coming up with it.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah. And I think that's it. We're sticking with that.
We're sticking with it.
Ben and Curt Till It Hurts, episode 1. Does
not pay to overthink things too much in this business.
We are both professional.
We're professionals now.
So, yeah, this is our new show to discuss various types of media, I would say. We specialize in video games, music, movies.
Yeah. I read books.
Yeah. I watch TV.
Yeah. Yeah. We're going to fight about that at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah, books versus TV.
Books versus the endless battle.
Episode 1.
What's better?
Yeah. So, I don't... Shit. Well, kill it, start over. No.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to intro as good as I did.
That was perfect.
Yeah.
So, Ben and I have decided to do a podcast together to embrace our love of media. And we're kind of doing an episode 1, a little free-form episode 1. We don't really have a formula yet.
We're trying to find it as we do it, right? We've got like pieces in there that we need to hit on, but we're not sure what the overall shape of this is going to end up being. I think we're going to kind of feel what we like and what we don't like, but the general, like the thrust of it is going to be we get updates, right?
Yep.
We give updates, rather, about what we've been into. You know, what we've been digging, what we've been doing, what we've been liking.
Yeah, and I think from my experience, any project you work on like evolves and changes as you work on it. So the only thing that is bad about, you make these concrete decisions and then you're stuck with that. So you know what? For this, we're just gonna go with it and we'll see what this turns into. So yeah, not every week, I lied about that. This is not going to be a weekly show, people. I'm sorry. Every episode we are going to kind of, touch base with the types of media that we've been enjoying and then probably find a discussion topic and hash out our love of media. So for a little bit of, I guess, history about us, I guess that might be a little bit important. It's not, but I just want to just praise myself. No. I had been working on a podcast called Conquered Cast. This will most likely end up on the same feed as that, so if you want to go back and enjoy 70-some-odd episodes of various podcasts...
Good episodes.
Thank you.
Good episodes. It was a good cast.
Thank you. That has since been run into the ground. No. We burned it down. We ruined it when we first had a taste of success. Mm-hmm. And so I just wanted to get a new show off the ground, and Ben and I have been friends... I was going to say for years, because we have been friends. I said it, and then I hesitated. I forget how old we are.
Yeah. We've known each other for years. We met in college.
Yeah, we went to the same college. We were both officers of the film club.
The UMF Film Club.
Yeah.
Ongoing litigation says we cannot talk too much about UMF. No, that's a joke. There's no litigation.
Ben was the president, and I was the secretary. And... we got a lot of stuff done as far as like two lazy college kids that don't really want to be in a club go.
Yeah.
We got money and...
Oh, boy, did we.
Yeah. Borderline embezzled some money.
Yeah, ongoing litigation.
Yeah.
Let's not...
I'm not going to bury myself here on the first episode.
No,
we had a good time.
Yeah.
And as fates have allowed, we now live 5 years out of college or however long it's been.
Jesus, 5? No, that has not been 5 fucking years. It's 2017. Oh God, wait a minute.
It's been 5 for me.
It's been 5 for you. It's been 4 for me.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
So we now live about 15 minutes from each other, and when I decided that with my old podcast ending and I wanted to get a new one going, there was like, you were the perfect candidate because I know that we get along, we know each other, we have worked on things together and they were successful. So here we are.
It's exciting. Yeah. I'm excited. I've been wanting to do something with you for a long time, but it's just a matter of like being too socially awkward to ask.
And I have been so lazy that I got in my own way for a long time. Like I would take too much on and then just be like, how about I just don't do anything? Like, leave me alone. I'm going to play video games. So I kind of want to set the tone for people, I think, a little bit. What would you say you kind of quote unquote specialize in? What are your favorite types of media, or what do you really focus on when you enjoy media?
So like the things that I get really excited about are movies. I get real excited about movies. I get real excited about video games, and music. Big on music. Your hip hop, your rock and roll.
Yep.
Whatever other jazz.
Yeah.
That's a joke. Hip hop is jazz. I already said it. It's fine. It's just modern jazz.
We're already pushing the boundaries here.
We're already breaking down your walls. But yeah, I would say that in brief, those are my areas of I was about to say areas of expertise, but fuck it. Yeah, areas of expertise.
We're gonna lie our way to the top here. And by the top, we realized today was the front page of the Farmington Flyer magazine.
That's our goal.
That's what I want to get to the top, and that's it. I think
the top.
It is nothing short of a sign from God that the first day we recorded our podcast, I got a new, I was going to say episode, but issue of Farmington First in the mail.
Yeah.
Give us a year. We'll be on that cover.
Yep. Dustin and Tasha, get out of the way with your farm.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit about a farm?
We're going to get them coming to Lisbon, Maine.
Lisbon, Maine. Home of Moxie and Ben and Curt Till It Hurts.
Wow.
We're going to have a fucking fair. We're going to have a parade one day of our own.
I guess in general, I have the same hobbies as you. I think we just kind of like, we're at different levels in those hobbies. I definitely don't keep up with video games at the same level that you do, but we're both pretty on par with music. We're pretty...
I feel like, we are, but like music is so broad right now that we end up not having as much crossover as like a person might think.
Yeah, so I'm mostly into hip hop and metal. I would say that's basically... I don't really listen to any contemporary rock. I realized that the other day. I was thinking about that, and I was watching a music review of like a band I don't even care about, just like I like the person who does the reviews, and I was like, I don't listen to any rock and roll anymore, like except like stuff from the 80s.
And AC/DC is what you mean. You listen to AC/DC and metal and hip hop.
So yeah, I think that kind of, I love movies a lot. I think I get where I falter in video games a little bit, I pick up in movies, and I think you're kind of a little stronger on video games than movies.
Yeah, for sure.
So with that being said, what's some stuff that's got you jazzed lately? What have you been?
I mean, do you want like the thing that has me most jazzed recently?
What video game have you been rocking the most lately?
I've told you about this over and over again. It's fucking Spelunky, Curtis. It's a crazy thing to say because that game came out in like 2011. But
I can never judge anybody for playing games that are not new. I have the hardest time keeping up with new games.
Yeah. And what's the point? But Spelunky is my game of choice right now.
I need to play it.
You gotta
just to understand where you're coming from, because I think you're the only person I've ever heard talk about it.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I felt like it made a big splash at the time, but I think people have kind of forgotten about it.
Yeah.
But like there's still, I guess I'll get into this later, but there's a daily challenge that you can do. Spelunky randomly generated levels. There's one level every day is randomly generated, and you can do the daily challenge, and you play the same level as everybody else. And then you get ranked on a leaderboard with them.
Oh.
Right? So I can see like there's still hundreds of people
playing
Spelunky.
It has a community
every day. And for a while there were like game journalists would record themselves doing the daily challenge. so you could see how everybody faced up to the same like challenges.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was really cool. There's like a good community, and I think that the reason there is such a good community is that it is a really, really strong video game.
How much is it?
It's like probably, I don't know, maybe $15.
Yeah.
Right now. I don't think it ever got a physical release.
Yeah.
It's one of those. It was one of the earlier, like, it was kind of at the forefront of that indie game push around like circa 2007 to 2011.
Yeah, because that was before I even really knew about that type of stuff.
Right.
The whole indie game and crowdfunded. Was it crowdfunded?
I don't think it was. It wasn't crowdfunded, but it did get published by Microsoft. So it was an Xbox Live Arcade. I don't even know if Xbox Live Arcade is still a thing.
I don't either.
That's old. That's old shit. That's old person shit. But it was an XBLA exclusive for a while because Microsoft had funded it. It was actually based on a game that Derek Yu had made in Game Maker, like that game making tool.
Yep.
He redid all the art and I think updated some other stuff for the full release. It's got like this beautiful cartoonish art on it. I don't know. It's just so good.
I love when a game has that, like, the same characteristics that like Chicken Soup has. Like when you're sick, you're just like, oh, when you just turn it on and you're like,
everything about this is washing over me.
I'm home.
And,
like,
yep.
Like I said, I haven't been getting into video games as much lately. As you know, I kind of had like a big stint with Stardew Valley, a few months ago. Most of my Christmas break was sucked up in that.
Yeah.
And yesterday I bought Resident Evil 7, and I think part of that was like, it was kind of like an honest attempt to like, I should play something contemporary to bring to this, because I know you're kind of in, you're into games, and I just keep playing Fallout New Vegas and Resident Evil 4 over and over again.
Wrong with that. I'm going to finish Fallout New Vegas one of these days, and we're going to talk about it on this goddamn show. But anyway.
So yeah, I grabbed that, and I'm a big like franchise gamer. Like that's basically what gets me to spend money, is the new Mario game or the new Pokemon game, the new Resident Evil game, the new Fallout game. That's like, okay, like I have enough history with that franchise to be like, fine, here's my $60. I trust you. That being said, Resident Evil 7, not for me.
No.
No, I've only played like an hour of it, and it was kind of weird. Like, this was just last night too, so it's very fresh in my memory. But like, I put it in, and the past few Resident Evil games have been pretty disappointing to me. Like,
well, 6 is like a pile of shit.
5 and 6, and I've said this before about other things, but like, 5 is so bad in my opinion. Like, it's worse than 6, but like 6 is so forgettable that it's almost worse than being terrible. Like, you can't even bond over how much it sucks. Like I can with 5 with other people.
Right.
Like, I played 6. I think I played it like 3 times with every character that you can choose to be. Yeah. Loser. And
franchise gamer.
And I don't even remember it. Like, and whenever I talk about like Resident Evil 6, the general consensus is like, oh yeah, fuck Resident Evil 6 anyway. Yeah. But so anyway, I put this in kind of skeptical. Like, I've seen some gameplay trailers of this. It just looks like Texas Chainsaw Massacre the game. And I was like expecting to have this, Resident Evil 5 or Resident Evil 6, not expecting to relive the glory that is Resident Evil 4. And I saw that, like, it starts off and you have like easy and normal, and then it was like there's a space, I think, for like you can unlock hard. And I was like, oh yeah, I might play this again. I might have to play this game again after I play it once. And in that moment, I had this like this glimmer of hope that I never expected to have, of like, what if this is really good? Yeah. Like, what if, I've heard people say a lot of good stuff about this game. Like, what if this is the next video game that I love, that like 2 years from now, I can't imagine my life without it. And then I played like 2 hours of it, and I don't think that's going to be the case, but
that's disappointing. But I'm glad you captured that.
It was nice to just have that moment. It was dusk. I was awake. Usually, I feel like most of my life I'm tired because I'm a fat piece of shit, and I just like I have to stay up late to enjoy things and then get up early to go to work. So anyway, I've talked about this with somebody else before, but I just think that Resident Evil is one of those games that like defined survival horror, and now when I play Resident Evil 7, I feel like Capcom is just trying to keep up with games that have gone, they've taken the mantle and they've made better games than Resident Evil has made in the past few years. And now the Resident Evil team is just like, well, how can we do that? And so I don't know.
You played Amnesia, you gotta hide in a locker.
Yeah, and
you play Outlast, you hide in a locker.
Yeah, Evil Within, you better get used to hiding in lockers.
You do that in that game too?
Yeah, you hide under beds and in lockers.
Why do people keep making that game? I do not understand. See, I was like talking up Resident Evil 7 to you because I had heard from other people without having played it myself.
Yeah.
That it was really good. I did not realize it was just one of those fucking games where you have to hide in a locker.
Yeah, there'll be these kind of weird, you like find videotapes and you put them in VCRs and then you're still playing, but you become the character on the VHS tape.
That's really weird.
Yeah, it is a cool idea, honestly. Mm-hmm. And there are like I've only played it a little bit, but like you can't attack or do anything. You just have to like not fuck up the narrative of the story. So you have to just like hide behind boxes and escape from people. And that just becomes it feels like you're not really playing a game, you're just playing an interactive story, which it takes a lot of the control or the you basically memorize patterns. And that's what's fun about that. Like not much. I want to have control here.
Yeah, I'm not playing fucking Mega Man. I don't want to memorize patterns. I don't want to memorize enemy patterns. When I'm playing a Resident Evil game, I want to like observe.
Yeah.
I want to be able to observe a situation and say like, all right, how am I going to handle this?
Yeah. I mean, and I'm glad you said that too, because what does it even say about the state of some aspects of games that, Mega Man came out in like what, fucking 1989 or something?
88, 89?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
that a part of that is still what video games are today.
Right.
Like just memorize where to go and then
right. It's like the enemy moves in different ways and it's the same with like Castlevania.
Just die until you figure it out.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's where I'm at with games. Miserable.
Real down on video games.
What about I know for music we have at least one that crosses over, but what have you been into with music lately?
With music other than the one that crosses over. I've been listening to old shit. I've been listening to a lot of Flying Lotus.
There you go.
Which I think I have played a little bit of that for you. I lent you that.
Yeah.
I've lent you You're Dead, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe it was that one.
And
was that the one we listened to the other day?
We were listening to Until the Quiet Comes.
I think it was that one then.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Okay. I don't know.
But
anyway, Flying Lotus is like hip hop guy, sort of like he's hip hop adjacent. He's also jazz adjacent, but as we established, it's the same thing anyway. So why bother differentiating? And it makes these really like forward looking, these like avant garde kind of beats that take elements of hip hop and jazz and mold them together into something that most of the time is not something that you would rap over. Though he has made beats for he's made beats for Kendrick Lamar before. He raps under the name Captain Murphy, and I think he does his own beats for that. But most of the time, it's just really pushing the limits of what. Sometimes it feels like it's pushing the limits of what music can be. Yeah.
Well, I think we kind of had a similar talk about Danny Brown a few minutes ago, where like sometimes it's really nice to have music where the first time you hear it, you don't know if you like it and then it grows on you. Like you have to push the boundaries of what you're willing to accept as good music. And so I like that about it. When I borrowed it from you, I listened to part of it, and then the mindset that I was in, I was just like, that sounds like I was on drugs, but I wasn't.
I was really high on crack, so.
I was just like, wow, that is not what I expected it to be. I don't know if I can handle that right now. But when we listened to it the other day, I really enjoyed it. So I gotta invest more time into that.
Yeah, yeah, and it is very much like the Danny Brown thing that you were mentioning, because we were talking about like vinyl and how to choose what records you buy.
Yep.
Right, and there are kind of two schools of thought between us, which is like one, either you buy the records that you know you're into and that you want to have like that nice, warm version of that you can play on analog and not lose anything to digitized or whatever.
Yep.
I just fucked up that explanation, but
sorry, everyone.
Sorry, I fucked up so bad. Shut it down, restarting. And the other school of thought is like, buy things that you think you'd like based on what they look like or what you've heard or like the way someone would have bought music in the 70s.
Yep.
It's like, wow, I haven't heard this before, but I like this cover and I've heard good things about this band from people I know, so I'm going to check this out. And go into it, fresh, go into it with an open mind. That's what I did with You're Dead, which is, the name of the Flying Lotus album that I have been listening to a lot again. I had heard Flying Lotus was really good. I had literally never listened to a single Flying Lotus song or album in my life. I was at Bull Moose, local music store Bull Moose, and I saw they had it on the discount rack.
Oh, there you go.
Right? Yeah, they had it like 50% off. That nice like double LP like folded open, and there's just pictures of dead people everywhere and shit. Like,
nice.
Yeah. And I bought that and I listened to it, and I didn't like it that much at first. But I just gave it time and listened to it over and over again, and now I know that thing back to front. I can listen to it anytime, and it just makes me happy. I sink into it like a warm bath,
Yep.
Like, I feel like a lot of times you listen to an album, and you might like it at first, and then it eventually becomes like background noise for you.
Yep.
I don't do background noise with that album. If I'm listening to that album, I'm sitting there for 35 minutes, and I'm
with my hands on my lap,
hands folded on my lap, perfect posture. I'm sitting there, I'm listening to You're Dead by Flying Lotus, and that is what I've been doing a lot of recently, music-wise. Other than our common friend, our mutual friend.
I have kind of like when I get super into something, I'll like listen to it constantly until I can't even stand to listen to it anymore, which is kind of weird because in my head I have this like weird definition for albums. Like, an album will be a summer album for me, and it will have nothing to do with the content of the music. It's just that, like, oh, I bought that album and it was summer, and I listened to it until I couldn't stand it anymore, and now it's summer again, and it's I'm having those like the noises of summer, like, oh man, I'm gonna grab that album and listen to it a year later. And that's kind of how I approach a lot of music. I've been doing that a lot with, like, we've had these like first couple days of real spring.
Yeah, it's
and like
beautiful.
It was like
right
a light switch. I was like, I got up and I was like, I just started grabbing albums, and I'm like, oh yeah, I bought all these albums like in the springtime, and now I'm like, oh okay, cool. Like these are spring albums. With my music, I kind of like, I spend about half of my time like listening to things that I know I like, and then I spend about half of my time I'm always checking out new music that comes out. I mean, I don't check out every new thing I find, but like if it's something that I think I'll be interested in, I check out albums that are coming out, and like new metal albums, new hip hop albums, stuff that people are talking about, and I'll check it out. So lately, as far as like things I like, I've really been listening to this giant Madlib box set that I bought. And I showed you Shades of Blue recently. That came out in like 2004. Blue Note is like a famous jazz label, as you know. I'm just
for the people.
For the people right, out there.
The people around the radius.
Yeah. They opened up their whole back catalog and gave Madlib permission to do jazz remixes of anything he wanted to. Hip-hop remixes, I should say, of any jazz song he wanted to. And he made an album with it, and it was very popular. And so I think based on his fun that he had with that, and realizing like, oh, people really liked that too, there's a market for that, he put out a series of 13 albums that I bought all in a box set, and each one takes a certain style of music and like does hip-hop remixes of it. So I've just been going absolutely crazy listening to remixed genres of music, like remixed disco music and remixed Brazilian music, and to the point where I was going a little crazy, like, because it's still the same artist doing his same techniques and stuff.
You're getting inside his head.
Yeah, so I had to pull back from that. I listened to like 6 of the 13, and then I was like, I'm going to take a break.
You were kind of listening to him on a schedule, too.
Yeah, yep, every
like,
day.
You were limiting yourself
Yeah.
So you wouldn't just burn through the whole thing.
Yeah. It was good. I was glad that I did that because even pacing myself like that, it kind of like I had to take a break because it was still, a lot of the same thing. And so I've really been going on Spotify and listening to like new albums and finding new things that I like. In fact, just today I found out the new Iron Reagan album. I don't know if you listen to them at all.
I don't, but I've heard the name.
It's fucking incredible. Like I couldn't believe how good it was.
What kind of music is that?
They're like a new, I want to say almost like thrash noir. They're one of kind of those.
Right. You're selling me.
Yeah, they're part of those. I'm trying to think of other. Like Ghoul is another one of those. They're like new bands that are trying to recapture that classic thrash sound, but with newer technology and stuff. And it was pretty great. Their whole album is like 28 minutes long. It's kind of in the same vein as I know you liked how I described Nails, their new album last year.
Oh, that was
similar
good.
To that, where it's like 13-second songs, and they have some real fun, like they have like a party song that are called like "Fuck Neighbors," and it's just like like fuck your neighbors, fuck their lawn. Like I listened to it once, so I don't remember. So, and there are just these like little interludes of like a nerdy guy like, hey, can you guys keep it down? And then they'll like go back into playing their thrash, and it's just like very hardcore thrashy. But my big album so far, right here, we're on the same wavelength here. That new fucking Pallbearer album.
Pallbearer.
Wow. Well, moving on.
Go listen to it.
Yeah.
It's good.
That really took me kind of by surprise. Their second album that came out a few years ago, I liked that a lot, but I don't know why. I guess I was so like caught off guard because I really liked their last album, but I listened to it and was really blown away. I feel like, have you listened to Foundations of Burden much?
No, I haven't.
I can't remember. Yeah, I couldn't remember. It's one of those things where usually, like obviously when an artist puts out a new album, you compare it to their previous work. Like are they getting better or worse? And I feel like they have done that, just the lateral movement where both albums are like incredible. It just comes down to preference. And I feel like when you have the ability to do that as a band, like when you can't look at a band's discography and say, well, obviously that's their best album. Like, that shows real staying power and writing ability for a band. So, it's at the point where I'm like, I don't even know which album I like better, because they're different. Like, Heartless is the new one, and that has it's doom metal, but they're really pushing that. I don't want to say pushing the boundaries too much on this, but there's a lot of...
We're extremely modern. I don't know if you guys have heard. We're kind of into the avant-garde side of things.
We're just trying to get you to keep up with us. No.
Yeah.
Good God.
Get on our level.
There are some progressive rock elements kind of mixed in that really... And that's why I say it's just a matter of preference, because Foundations of Burden is incredible, but it's a very straightforward doom album. So, like, it just kind of depends, like, do you like progressive rock with hints of doom, or do you like doom metal with hints of progressive rock?
Or, like, how are you feeling that day?
Yeah, and that's a good point, too, is that, that alone is, you could just crave a different album on a different day, which, speaking of which, we don't even have time to get into it barely, but I just got to throw out there, one of the other home run albums of this year has been the new Run the Jewels album.
Oh, shit, yeah. Yeah.
What?
Oh man, I started out loving that album. It has grown on me.
Yeah, day one I was like, this is dope. This is great, and it's only gotten better in my opinion.
Every single song is a complete banger.
Yeah, and the thing for me that I notice is I've had time to like let it sink in and check out the lyrics, and there's so much incredible wordplay and rhymes written on that album that just like I'm still impressed by it when I listen to it. Like
I tend to notice like little pieces of imagery that they use, like that when LP says he does push-ups nude on the edge of cliffs.
Yep.
I think that's in Legend Has It, maybe, but like that fits so well. Even if it's not, that fits well with the theme of that song, which is like they're aligning themselves with mythical imagery, right? Like that's how good. That's how much they want to brag about how good they are.
Yeah.
Is like we're like kings. We're like emperors. We're like, we're gods.
Yeah, I think even if you want, like, look song by song, like, I think, well, it was funny because it was, like, the big single for the album, but, Talk to Me, that, I feel like structurally, that song is, like, perfect. Like, it's catchy, it's great, it has, like, really cool, like, like DJ scratching, which, when used well in a hip-hop song, is just, like, whew, it just blows me away.
Yeah, that's LP, man.
Yeah.
LP knows how to do that shit right.
And then I think... there's just some of the lines on that album are just, in fact, both in that song, they each have like some lines that are like some of my favorite lines on the whole album, and even probably in hip hop in general. But I know Killer Mike, that I just like alliteration, and when you can use things like alliteration and near rhymes or rap in a way that makes it sound like you're not rapping, you're just speaking and it rhymes. That's the type of stuff that I really love. I love complex rhymes, and so just the line "Militant Michael might go psycho." Yeah. That is like the coolest. Like, whoa! Like I had to stop and like process for a minute.
And then like the end of that verse also, because he like retains that kind of structure of that line for the rest of the verse, and he ends on that line. My job is to fight for survival in spite of you all lives matter ass white folk. That is a great line. That is a great line. And is that the song that has bullying bastards and beating on beats sounds like a day at the beach?
I don't know.
Preach on it.
I don't think that's... I think that's
another one, like, really good.
Legend Has It,
That's a really good alliteration in that one. I keep coming back to Legend Has It. I just love that. Love that song.
The other... one of the thing, it was like one that jumped right out at me and just blew me away, was just LP being so clever with the brave men didn't die face down in the Vietnam
you
mud, so
posted
I
that
could
on
not
your
style
Facebook.
on you.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god!
I didn't walk uphill both ways to the booth and back to not while on you. Yeah. You think baby Jesus killed Hitler just so I'd whisper?
Just left, just like home runs, just left and right.
Like, they just knock it out of the park like over and over again. Nothing falls flat on that whole album.
That came out in January, and I can easily see that being one of my number one album of this year. Like, it's just grown on me. I haven't gotten sick of it. I like it more and more the more I listen to it.
I mean, like, between that and the Pallbearer is crazy, but like couple few spots on my list are taken.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I did put RTJ3 on my last year's list because it did like get dropped on Christmas. I think. But I'm gonna put it on this year's list again. Who gives a shit? Yeah,
not me. I think that kind of, I can see that going, both ways for sure. Like, it's just, that's how good it was. I'm trying to think of like that Iron Reagan was really good. Kodak Black's new mixtape, I could definitely see that kind of pulling up the tail end of on my list. And then there has already been some really great music this year.
Yeah.
And so it makes me feel good to like keep up with new music when I'm like, look at all this stuff I'm getting out of it. Like, but anyway, that's kind of where I don't know if we have anything else.
We did, we talked video games, we talked music. You've been watching any TV? I've been watching some TV.
I watched season 2 of Better Call Saul, and that's about it for me. I mostly watch movies, I think. But what have you been watching for TV?
So, my wife, Megan, who you know.
Yes.
Friend of the show, Megan. And she's been on a big Colin Farrell kick recently.
Okay.
Like watching...
Word up.
He's a good actor.
Yeah, he is. Phone Booth, baby.
Phone Booth. Yeah. She has never seen that movie. She's excited to watch it.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for her to watch it. That's a good goddamn movie. So she's been watching everything Colin Farrell's ever done. We were both really big fans of True Detective Season 1, but we'd never watched Season 2 just because we'd kind of heard it wasn't as good or whatever. But Colin Farrell's in it, and she needs to watch everything Colin Farrell's ever been in, and I'm interested. So we watched the first episode last night. True Detective Season 2 owns. Anyone who says that True Detective Season 2 is not as good as Season 1 is wrong.
I will fight you.
I will fight you. Come find me.
Yeah.
How about that? Should I throw in how about that?
Just mute.
Ben's done.
Well, we had fun. It sucks that we had such a cool name. It's over.
Too bad that name's gone. Done forever. Burn it down again, I guess. But yeah, True Detective Season 2 is like introducing, and again, I'm only one episode into it, but from what I've heard, it's a slow start. That's what even people who like the season have said, that Season 2 has a slow start. For me, it's doing everything that I like from a mystery. It's introducing all of these different mystery layers, right? And just not giving you time to really understand and contextualize them as they come. It's like throwing everything at you and just saying like, here, keep up.
Yeah.
You know, like, fucking hope you're paying attention, because if you weren't listening during that scene where like Vince Vaughn and Colin Farrell talk to each other, or the later scene where they were talking to each other, and if you didn't pick up on subtext, probably you're gonna miss something later. You know, you're gonna miss some piece of the character or whatever. It feels like it trusts me to be an attentive viewer, which is something that I always look for in media.
Commands your attention.
Commands my attention. It's like, it's compelling as hell. There's a great scene where Colin Farrell beats the shit out of a kid's dad in front of him because the kid has been bullying his son.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so like it's and I was talking to Megan about this. It is the guy who wrote it, Nick Pizzolatto. I just pronounced his name in a really offensive way, as though it has the word pizza in it. But the guy that Nick P, the writer of True Detective Seasons 1 and 2, has this crazy way of writing where the end result is that it feels like he's taken little snippets out of all the mystery stories that he's ever read. Sometimes they're really like coarse grains snippets. Sometimes they're really big snippets, right? Mm-hmm. And just molded them all together into like a ransom note style mystery story. So you'll see characters doing and saying things, and it's like, wow, this is really similar to like a cliche, right? Like a mystery cliche. But somehow the way he uses it and the way it all comes together makes it feel fresh and makes it feel like vital and vibrant in ways that I honestly was not expecting. I was not expecting to like this season as much as I am enjoying it.
Is this on Netflix?
No, we're buying it.
Oh, okay, word up.
Yeah, we're buying it episode by episode off Amazon.
Okay.
Yep, and I'm really excited. And she wanted to watch the second episode immediately, but I said no. I need to let this sink in.
We need to process. We've talked about this. You have to process.
We have talked about this. So I think we both agree that it's important to like.
We all like to binge once in a while.
Yeah, every now and then, but
if it's something you really care about,
sometimes it's not appropriate.
Yeah,
you know,
take your time.
You got to resist. You have to remember, like when people first watched some of these things, they had to wait a week between.
Yeah,
you know, I love that example you gave about like. What was it? It was a certain character is just played in Friends. Ross's son, in an early season, is literally played by different actors sometimes.
Yep.
Because they just figured, who's gonna give a shit?
Yeah, they don't remember,
right?
Like, and then you watch now on Netflix. You watch them back to back to back. You're like, that's a different kid, different ages, like. But yeah, I think too, like. When Netflix, I think Netflix is mostly responsible for this, but maybe not, because DVDs have been out.
Yeah, I think Netflix was continuing a trend that DVDs started.
That's fair. I think that people take it like a point of pride, like this season of whatever show came out, and people will brag. I'll see on Facebook or whatever. People are like, yeah, I watched it all in a row. I watched the whole thing in 9 hours straight.
Watched the whole thing in fast forward. I got through it in 4.5 hours.
Yeah, and people are like, they're proud that they made it through a whole season in 2 days or whatever. And I like to binge on things too once in a while, but really though, you miss a lot, and you have to. I think it's important to let things sink in, and I try to do that more now, which is tough for me because I'm already like drowning in things that I want to watch and haven't watched or played or listened to yet. But I think some of the things that I like the most were things that I had to take my time watching, and I didn't realize that that's part of why I liked it so much.
It's important to let your brain do its job, you know? Like when you've got like subconscious shit going on when you're not actively watching something, you're still thinking about it a little bit without even noticing it. Your brain is processing those images and sounds and trying to like put them in context so that when you go to the next episode, like I guess this is coming off really pretentious, but I guess I'm into the avant-garde of television, you know. No,
every medium. I really like to push the boundaries of,
like to, you know, say what even is television. Yeah. But I'm also genuinely no. It's like you want to. I fucking fuck it. I forgot what I was saying.
You blew it.
I blew it. Burn it down.
The next step to that, though, is like liking things that suck because you pretending or actually thinking there's more to it than there is.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm sick of people shitting on Mike and Molly. It's a very good show. Fuck off. No one cares about Mike and Molly. Like,
I did that for a while with the Absol album that came out last year. I was like, no, he's doing some really interesting stuff. He's pushing the boundaries.
Yeah. The boundaries are pushed. We ruined it. We pushed them beyond any point of relevance.
These are unrecognizable boundaries. But yeah, that Absol album sucks. Anyway. That's television.
I saw the new King Kong movie recently and I was super into it, but
I really want to see that. What do you like about it? What's the coolest thing about that movie that you can tell me about without spoiling it too much?
All right, a couple quick takeaways.
All right, give me your hot takes.
It's part of this recently established MonsterVerse, but I really, really like how both Godzilla and King Kong can be enjoyed completely and 100% without having seen the other one or knowing that it's part of a universe. They're both completely self-contained stories. King Kong does hint a little bit more at, that there's going to be more, but that was enjoyable where it's like, oh, I'm not watching a 2.5 hour trailer for something they're going to put out in 2 years.
Yeah, that shit drives me crazy. That's why I can't go see fucking comic book movies anymore.
It's gotten so bad.
I will jump away from a shared universe most of the time.
Yeah. I'm invested in the DC universe. I just want to see what they do with it, but I'm pretty off the train with most comic book movies. The other thing was that they're in the same universe, but they took a very different approach to it. Like in Godzilla, it was a while before you saw Godzilla, and they used him kind of sparingly. You got a couple fights, and you got your cool Godzilla moments, but there wasn't a whole... That was a problem that big Godzilla fans had with it, was like, there should have been more Godzilla. Like, they used him a little more sparingly. Kong, Skull Island is... You see him sooner than you expect to. They don't hide much. They don't leave much to the imagination. He's a giant ape. Like,
that's cool.
And I like that. So it was very much like Godzilla pulled from like more of like a sci-fi horror type of atmosphere, and this other movie that takes place in the same universe is it's a serial adventure like type feeling. And I really like that they both had those very different tones to them, but they still worked really well. And you don't need to watch the other one.
Yeah.
But yeah,
though I did watch the other one. I like Godzilla.
Yeah, I love that Godzilla movie.
That Godzilla movie was hot.
I just oh man, I totally forgot about? I just watched Shin Godzilla the other day.
Oh yeah?
The new Japanese Toho. It's the first official reboot they've ever done of Godzilla movies. The most they've ever done in the past was, they say, okay, well the first one counts and none of the other sequels count, but you can still base this off the first Godzilla movie. This was the first full reboot they've done of the Godzilla franchise. And it was dope. It was so good. I maybe shouldn't have said that I watched it, because I definitely... You may know that there's no legal way to watch it.
The hammer's going to come down on this cast first episode. Ben and Curt, till it hurts our wallets from the lawsuit.
But it was great. They took it very seriously. There was some humor in it. But it was one of those things where I don't know if it was intentional humor or a miscommunication between me being American and the makers of the movie being Japanese.
That's a really interesting point.
I laughed at things, and then I'm like, I don't know if that was supposed to be dry humor, or if it just hit me as something funny that wasn't supposed to be funny.
So I think most of the time, and not to like get too far into this, but this is something I've thought about a lot. But Yeah, I think most of the time it is genuinely trying to be funny and like odd and like a little weird. I think a lot of Japanese stuff goes for that tone, and then American people watch it, gaijins, as we might call them. The gaijin gets their dirty white hands on it and says like, "Oh, look at those wacky Japanese people. Don't know how wacky they're being."
Yeah.
But Japanese people do, from my experience and my observations, do just kind of have wacky senses of humor.
Yeah.
Like you remember that Most Extreme Elimination Challenge show that was on like Spike TV or CNN for a while back in the late 2000s? I think a lot of people watched that show and said like, "Wow, what is this? Japanese people made this crazy game show that's trying to be like a real game show, but they're all dressed in costumes and stuff." And it's like, no, that dude was a comedian. Like that show was Takeshi's Castle, and Beat Takeshi was a comedian. He was trying to be funny with all that stuff, and then they took it and made it funny in a slightly different way. But I think it's always important to remember, like,
it's self-aware.
Most of the time, they're being self-aware.
Well, good.
They say they, like, Japanese people are a different type of person.
Shut it down.
Shut it down. We've already racist. What's the timestamp? How long did it take me to get racist?
Well, we're at 46 minutes, but we actually have about 6 minutes of usable material.
The rest of it is just racist ranting.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything because I really think people should watch it, but...
Kong, that is, or Shin Godzilla?
Both. But I'm speaking specifically about Shin Godzilla. They took it very seriously, and it made a low-budget movie work really well because they took it seriously. The soundtrack was mostly, like, orchestral music with a choir over it. It was very, like, serious in tone. And there were some moments... I want to say it, but I won't say because it's kind of a spoiler, so I won't. But it was much more emotional than I thought it would be, from a Godzilla movie. So that was great. But that being said, we kind of came into this first episode with like a main discussion point, which we've kind of. We took a big bite out of the first. I feel like that's the problem, is that we're like, oh, we'll just catch up what we're into real quick.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I think maybe we do like a top 3 each every week.
That's a good point, because we're so passionate.
Not every week, but every episode.
Every episode. We're so passionate about this stuff that like it's easy to go off.
And like we dip our toes in so many different things.
Yeah.
So I think it would be cool to think like, all right, what are the 3 things you want to talk about in this episode? But anyway, that's all...
We're working it out with you
baseball.
guys.
Yeah, what do you think? Get in touch.
Yeah. We actually, originally I was thinking like, if we can't think of a name for this show, I'll just say, throw some names at us. But now we have a sick name.
So don't tell us shit.
I don't even give a shit what you think it should be called. This is Ben and Curt till it hurts.
That's good.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm far enough away from it now that I can.
So anyway, we can briefly, for 3 hours, get into the main topic here.
This is going to be part 1. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
we're not going to be able to.
Part 1 of a never-ending series.
Yeah. Anytime we can't think of another topic, we're just going to do this topic. And what's that topic, Curt?
Are both
mutual.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mutual admiration, adoration, love of Resident Evil 4.
Resident Evil 4.
The perfect video game.
It's the best video game. Someday, I'm not closed off to the idea that someday someone will make a better game than Resident Evil 4. Like, I'm open to that idea, because I'm an optimist. But I'm not sure that it's happened yet. Oh, it has happened, but as far as what Resident Evil 4 was going for, no one has made a better... Like, I don't think anyone has made a better third-person shooter survival horror game.
No, certainly not. And this came out in, like, 2005, I think.
2005? Maybe 2006, maybe 2004.
Yeah.
And I lived in Japan at the time. It's hard for me to...
Yeah. You may have had it before we did.
Nah, I don't think I did. Plus, what am I going to play that on?
Yeah.
Modded GameCube? I didn't have one of those.
The fun thing, speaking of what you can play Resident Evil 4 on, I just realized this yesterday because I was talking to my brother about Resident Evil 4.
Of course.
Of course I was.
Every day.
That game has been on, I think, 6 consoles. Because
GameCube,
PS2, then the Wii,
personal computer,
Windows. It was on It was available for digital download on Xbox 360 and PS3, and now the HD remake is on PS4 and Xbox One.
That's 8.
Yeah.
We got 8
consoles. And I'll still keep playing it. Every time it comes out, I buy the new version of it. So, I don't even know, like, how do we start with Resident Evil 4?
What do we like so much about Resident Evil 4? What's our favorite thing about it? I always find that's a good, like, jumping off point for a discussion about something, because it forces you to get specific.
Okay.
So what do we love so much about Resident Evil 4?
So, the thing that makes this hard for me is that I instantly go to well, how do you want to look at this? Because there are two things in my mind that make it so perfect. And the first, I guess, from like your first playthrough point, is that it takes a franchise that had already made some fantastic games, and just as soon as it started to get a little stale, with the main entry games, there were some Resident Evil games like Dead Aim and File Outbreak, and there were some bad Resident Evil games.
Stop talking about those games.
Yeah.
I didn't want to hear those names.
But they for their main entry anyway, as soon as things got a little stale with Nemesis, actually, and then Code Veronica, which was a great game on its own, but I don't know if that counts as a main entry.
I think people usually count it.
It follows the same gameplay. So, as soon as things got stale, they did a complete 180 and changed the complete dynamic of what a Resident Evil game was. They went from a stationary camera where you move a third... I don't know if there's a word for that, where it's a locked camera and you move your character...
I think it's just fixed perspective, fixed camera angle. You can usually just like compare it to different games. Like, it's like, well, Resident Evil is the big touch point for a lot of it, but it also like old Alone in the Dark and a lot of old...
Parasite Eve.
A lot of old RPGs also, like JRPGs, had fixed camera angles. It just lets you pre-render the backgrounds and make things atmospheric.
Yeah, and so it went from that to a over-the-shoulder, third-person action survival horror. And just, people were a little freaked out about it at first. Actually, a funny thing to mention is there are beta footage.
I wanted to talk about this.
Of a very... old school Resident Evil style Resident Evil 4 with Leon, the main character.
It's like in a mansion.
Yeah, and he has his same clothes. He has the brown like leather jacket and stuff. And but for some reason they threw that out. Maybe they felt like it wasn't
working,
bringing enough to the table. Who knows?
Yeah.
And they just made a fantastic. It's scary. It's fun. You're on the edge of your seat the whole time you're playing. Just a perfect fun to play.
Yeah.
Like.
It feels good to play. Yeah, like it's responsive. You have that, like, there's so many little things about the controls that are just really great about that game. Like this was probably in the other Resident Evil games too. I'm actually not sure. I don't know why I'm blanking on this. But the like 180 degree turn.
Yeah, the about face.
Yeah, is just a great move. Like a
great tool to have.
When
you're always running. From shit.
You're like limited. You're limited in what you can look at, and the 180 degree turn kind of replaces. Like, if you were in this situation in real life, if you were in Rookie Cop Leon S. Kennedy's shoes, you'd be able to kind of look over your shoulder.
Yep.
Right? And in the game, that's represented by being able to just turn around at a moment's notice.
I think the big thing, though, is that makes it so enjoyable is not only... The big thing is that it's just an incredible game. But second to that is that there's so much replayability in this game. Probably... for me, more than any other game, I've ever played. There's the only other thing I can think of maybe is like New Vegas for me, because you could play so many different character builds. But you can beat the game, and then you can play it again with the same weapons you had and items when you beat the game.
Yeah, New Game Plus.
Yeah, you just play it again and again and get better and better and better, and you unlock more things every time. There are mini games like Mercenaries you can play, which is a heart attack and a half.
I don't want to think about Mercenaries.
But yeah, so that's kind of where I come from. I just think it's a complete 10 out of 10 game that gives you the ability to play it over and over again, where some 10 out of 10 games, you beat it and you're just like, and you put your controller down and you loved it, but you kind of know you're never going to play it again. And Resident Evil 4 is definitely not that. You can play it over and over because I played it like 40 times.
Mm-hmm.
So how about you, though? Where do you come from on this?
For me, the thing that I really love about Resident Evil 4 is the moments, right? It's these like wonderful little moments. And when I'm talking about moments, I mean not even things that are scripted, right? Just little things that happen. Like the village, right? That first encounter in the village. Mm-hmm. You fought a couple enemies, but you're not really sure what's going on.
Yep.
And you get to this big, wide open area that, like, probably in terms of square footage and in terms of like places you can go, is probably like, I don't know, a third as big as the entire first Resident Evil game.
Yeah.
Just the different like houses you can run in, you can jump out of windows. It just flows really well.
Yeah.
And you get there and people just start coming at you.
Yeah.
And you have no idea how long it's going to last.
Yeah.
That first time
you're
playing.
and you don't even know if you're supposed to be doing something.
You're like, am I supposed to look for an exit?
Yeah.
Am I supposed to kill all these people? Is there some kind of switch I need to flip?
Yeah.
And I am still not entirely clear on how that ends. I'm not entirely clear on how that triggers. Like, I don't know if it's a timer thing. I don't know if it's a number of enemies that you kill thing. So it's still, even when I replay it these days, it still like gets me a little panicked. So I'm like, I do not know how long this is going to last.
Yeah, and especially within that, there are different scenarios that you can trigger in that. Like, if you stay outside in the main, the outside area, don't go into any of the buildings, you just have to fight the enemies that are there. Mm-hmm. If you run into a house and you think, I can hide in here, you get a shotgun and you're like, oh, thank God. Yeah. And then the most menacing sound in any video game, you just hear a faint sound of a chainsaw off in the distance and you're like, oh God. Like, it's the only time you've ever been given a shotgun in a survival game and wished you hadn't been given that shotgun.
Can I put it back?
Yeah. And then you also, if you try to escape, if you try to just avoid everybody and run through to the next area, it triggers another chainsaw guy. So there are just different, that's another thing that's so enjoyable about it, is that it's actually a somewhat linear game. It doesn't feel like it.
In terms of where you can go, I think you get little choices sometimes.
Once you're familiarized with the map, you realize it is kind of, you're following a path, but it never feels like that. And part of the reason for that is you enter an area and you're like, do I fight or do I run? Do I just fight the easiest way? Do I trigger, do I trade off? Like, is it worth getting the shotgun if I have to fight a chainsaw guy? Or are you like me, where you're at the point where you're like, all right, well, you're running through all these triggers so you can fight the hardest amount of enemies.
Right.
And it just offers that amount of freedom and choice that makes it so it doesn't feel like you're playing a linear story.
Right.
And, God damn it, that game.
That game's so good. Other moments.
Please.
It. The moment when, so like through the first part of this game, right, the sun is going down in the background, right? As you're playing through this whole village area that comprises probably the first third of the game, I would say, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. You're watching the sun go down. It's daytime for the first part of this game, and it's scary as shit. But it is daytime. So the whole time you're noticing sun goes down a little farther, a little farther, a little farther. Time is passing. And when the sun goes down, you're kind of looking for changes, right? It's like, oh, what little thing is going to be different about the enemies? And then you shoot one in the head and the like tentacle monster comes out. And that's an incredible moment. The first time I saw that, I shit myself. Not literally, but figuratively. I shit myself because it was terrifying. I was expecting some little difference in enemy behavior. I was not expecting like sharp tentacles to come out. And then for me to have to completely change the way that I approached those enemies.
Yeah, for sure. Because for instance, one of the best ways I find to fight in the daytime is you get up close and personal. You have a shotgun, so you get right in front of 4 people and you take everybody out with one shot.
You can save a lot of ammo that way too. You
conserve ammunition. And so, but at nighttime, when the tentacle monsters fucking shoot out of their necks, you can't get too close to them because they have a one-hit kill. Like one of their tentacles basically has like a scythe on, like a bone scythe on the end of it, and it can one-hit kill you. It can slice your neck and kill you. So at that point, you're probably your strongest damage weapon, which is your shotgun, is useless because you have to be 15 feet away from them to be safe from them. And what good is a shotgun going to be from a widespread shotgun going to be from that far away?
Right.
Not much. So you find yourself, like, you see them, you find yourself from a very far distance just trying to, like, pick them out with a pistol. It just changes the way you have to approach enemies, and they do that throughout the game. You find a whole series of enemies that have different, God, the one that terrifies me still is when you get to, this is much towards the third act of the game.
If you haven't played Resident Evil 4, probably go play it.
Yeah, you probably should before
if you're the kind of person who'd be interested in it.
If you haven't played a game that's like 12 years old at this point.
Yeah.
I don't even know what they're called at this point. The regenerators.
Regenerators.
How terrifying are those things, especially when you're trying to learn how to kill them.
That's a really scary area too.
Yeah.
The place that they're in is like, what is it? It feels, I don't even remember what it literally is, but it's when you're on this island and you've been playing like a high octane action game for a little while, and then you're in this little closed off, is it a medical facility? Well, it's some kind of military facility?
The first act of the game, probably about a third of the game, like you said, but maybe it feels like more.
The village and island are a little shorter and the castle is a little longer.
Yeah, you have your
it's basically
village,
the first act.
And then you have your castle, and then the third act is a little remote island that's a chemical testing facility when you get really into the root of what this group is up to.
Yeah, and it kind of pulls off other like Resident Evil games where you'd always go like in the second one you go under the police station and there's the facility under there.
Yep.
First one I think there's a facility under the mansion.
Yep.
This one it's just an island.
And there's just so much. That, and then I can't remember his name. The character has a name, but the big fat guy with the Gatling gun.
Oh God, yeah.
You just have to. You see a new enemy and you're just like, oh shit! Like,
how am I going to handle this?
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as enemy design, that right there, you have your onslaught of enemies that are your simple enemies. And then at nighttime, they get a little more complicated. Yep. And then shortly after that happens, you're like, oh, sweet, there are like wolves that have the tentacle monsters in them, too.
Yeah, dogs coming after me.
The pacing is perfect.
As soon as you feel like you're getting used to something and like you can handle it pretty well, they throw something new at you.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, man. and each level, each like little encounter area feels unique. It feels like it's testing you in a different way. It never feels like the game is repeating itself too much. Like, and the thing that I think of for that is like, right after you're able to get your first sniper rifle, there's a little area where like, yeah, you could run in, right?
Yeah.
But there's this fence here, right?
Yeah.
Why not try out your sniper rifle? Give that a shot. See how it works. See what you can do with it. Or later on, there's that ski lift.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's another... Actually, that first area when you first get the sniper rifle, that is one of my favorite gaming moments ever. You're just locked in this weird area with rope bridges and little shacks.
It's like an intricate. It's another one kind of like the village. It's very wide open. Like it's a well laid out set of little areas that you just move between, and enemies are always chasing you. It has a good rhythm to the combat where it's like, all right, I'm fighting. I gotta fall back. I
think that's the first point in the game where the enemies implement dynamite sticks too.
Yes.
Yeah, they throw dynamite at you. And you
can shoot them from far enough away.
Yeah.
You can blow them up.
Which isn't that the most satisfying? Like,
when you nail that, it's better than a headshot.
I think the point, one of my like highlights of Resident Evil 4, when I realized like, I don't really think I need to play this game ever again, but I still will, was there's a part where there were like 5 enemies coming at me, and this game has an ability where if you shoot somebody in the face or the knee or something, and you run up to them, you can attack them with a physical attack to conserve ammo again, but at the cost of now you're in the middle of this crowd of enemies. So I think there's a part with like 5 enemies. I shot one in the knee, ran up, did a spin kick, which like knocked everybody down. Then I threw an incendiary grenade and then just like stabbed everybody to death. And I was like, why am I playing this?
It's like, I'm way too good at this video game.
One thing, I never want to do this, but it's possible, and people have done it. People have beaten that entire game using just the level 1 pistol without upgrading it at all, and the knife.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've never done that.
I'm not good enough.
I think it's one of those things where it's like, you have to learn how to play the game differently.
Yeah.
And that's just something, I really like the game so much, I don't want to have to relearn the whole thing. I like doing what I do in it. Is there anything else we want to... We're at an hour. It's an hour 5, and I don't know if we want to...
I don't think we want to dig deeper into Resident Evil 4, but I feel like there's more shit we could say about Resident Evil 4.
I desperately hope every episode does not have Resident Evil 4 Part 2.
Let's hope we come up with some fresh ideas in a couple weeks.
Yeah, so...
I feel satisfied with that Resident Evil 4 discussion. Even if that's the only time we talk about Resident Evil 4...
That's enough.
That's enough. I feel like maybe that should be
the only time we... But then we're like, we haven't touched on mercenaries or the weapon upgrades or
like the castle, other than mentioning it.
The variety of boss battles.
Not a fan of the boss battles.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan. All right, we'll get into this.
Next time will be Resident Evil 4 boss battles. Because
some of the boss battles are great, some of them not so hot.
We'll
one specific one is not so hot.
We'll find out next time.
Yeah, they'll leave them... Always leave them wanting more. Yeah. Which boss battle does Benjamin not like in Resident Evil 4?
Which one does
debate amongst yourselves?
Like the most?
Yeah, get down in the comments and try to figure
I know they're
out.
Just going to be wondering which one it is.
Oh, pins and needles on the edge of your seat.
Our listeners for our first episode. But with that being said, I'm very, very excited to start this new show. Originally, when I started thinking about a new show, I wanted a spiritual successor to my old show, and now this, already in our first episode, has changed beyond this. I even said to you, like, earlier before we started recording, this has become our show, which is good, because I didn't want it to be my show that you were on, and now I'm very happy with what we've discovered so far, what we've molded so far.
Yeah, I'm loving it.
I think Ben and Curt Till It Hurts is going to be...
Till It Hurts.
Gonna be our new...
We hope it was fun.
Our new thing. For the sake of some just helping explain things, this is being recorded at my studio, which I have named Black Gold Studios. So that's why the feed that this is on is Black Gold Podcast. Black Gold Podcast is a separate podcast that I do that this will just share the same feed as. So... Black Gold Podcast on iTunes and Buzzsprout is how you can listen to this show, and I hope you do listen to it. I hope we find some more cool stuff to talk about on a consistent basis. Yeah. I'm on Instagram if you want to follow me. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at CurtCake5K. I don't think you're into that yet.
Nah, I don't have any of that stuff.
Yeah, you might find that it's fun after.
I'm gonna have a website soon.
Wow, that's bold right there.
I bought the domain already.
Oh my god, that's the biggest commitment. The rest is just going to fall into place.
Yeah, oh my god.
I hope it's just ben.com.
Website does have my name in it. It's Ubenpo.
Okay.
Ubenpo. O-U-Ben-P-O.
All right.
.com. I think it's a .com. I'm not actually sure.
.gov.
.cool.
Ben.sick.
Ben.museum.
So we will be back in probably a couple weeks, but who knows? Depending on availability and how much fun we have, who knows?
Yeah.
We're not under any contracts here. We can do this as often as or as unoften. Inoften.
Shit. Rarely.
Shut it down.
It's over.
Sorry, everybody.
First episode, last episode.
So we'll be back to talk about more media-related things.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Curt. This has been Ben and Curt Till It Hurts. Thanks for checking it out. We'll be back soon.
Bye.